Welcome back to another video. So in this one I'm going to be trying out the Ohuhu Bleedproof marker pad. That's a mouthful. I've actually really wanted to try these since they came out, and it seemed like they actually worked because I really like using both sides of the paper, or else I feel like I'm kind of wasting it. Unless I'm doing some sort of big picture for somebody, especially with graphite, because obviously you don't want anything on the other side. Because it'll just rub it into whatever's beneath it. This did not want to open smoothly for me. I think every single time I try to take off plastic on video, it never works, even though usually I do it in one go. So yeah, watch me struggle. You know, I cut a little bit out. Anyway, yeah, I really wanted to actually try this paper out, and I got the opportunity, and they had a little sale, so that was really cool. And the backing board and stuff on this is really, really nice. I use chipboard to make books myself. I'm not great at it or anything, but yeah, I can appreciate the quality of the chipboard on the back of this. Actually, the quality in general was really nice. And you can see right here, I'm kind of testing the paper, and it wasn't as thick as I thought it was going to be. Not in a bad way either. It's actually slightly thinner than the cardstock that I use. That, and it actually had a texture. So what's kept me from buying a lot of marker paper is every single time I touch it, it's way too smooth, and I don't like that. I like having some tooth to my paper, which is, again, probably just because I mostly used graphite back in the day. So, yeah, but I really enjoyed the feel of this paper. And I started thumbnailing. Originally, I was thinking about doing someone with a big metal jaw. This is something that I've revisited multiple times before. Wanted them to have, like, really creepy metal teeth on that bottom jaw. Something like that. Some mechanical parts. You know the works. And then my brother was kind of jokingly saying I should draw a panda bear with these metal claws, and I thought that was funny, and I wanted to find a way to put them together. It wasn't super successful, and it wasn't my favorite, but it came together in its own way, so I don't hate it. So there's that. I didn't put anything beneath my paper when I started going at it. And also originally I was going to do something colored. The panda thing kind of fell into place in its own way because I had to use gray tones. We had ended up getting, you know, the whole threats against schools thing everywhere, including where I live, which is funny because we live in a very small place. Not necessarily funny, but you know. So I just wanted to stay home near the phone because we're some emergency contacts for a couple of kids that go to school, so just wanted to stick around just in case I needed to get somebody. And what I have at home is most of my gray tone markers, so that's what I ended up going with. Actually, I had to go pick up my paper because I had already put it in the other place that I film, and I thought, you know, that's where I was going to be, so I had to go get it, and someone German Shepherd tried to eat me on my way over, so you know, it was a miracle that I got back eventually. Had to take the long way home. But yeah, I just started with thumbnailing like usual, and then I'm like, have I ever even drawn a real panda before? Yeah, I don't think so. If I have, it was at a zoo, and it's been a really long time. So then I just pulled up Pinterest and grabbed some pictures and started drawing from those. What you see on this paper are the only drawings that I did of the panda, and then just decided I would draw from those and hope for the best. Because I was mostly just getting the shapes down and trying to think of how they would change if the panda's face was angry. And here is me doing a really great job failing to place my camera where it needs to be, because you're actually seeing where I'm drawing the mouth and the nose right here. Yeah, good job, me. It's just because I zoomed in to show the paper, my thumbnails and stuff. I didn't zoom back out like a fool. As if I haven't been making a video a week or more since the beginning of this year, and I still make silly beginner mistakes like that. There's the top, the little head thing. So weird. Actually, as I'm watching back through this, I'm remembering that there were some things on the original that I need to fix, because the back part of that is supposed to have kind of like a cape thing going on, and I didn't draw the back of it. I was leaving it to see how things bled and worked, and was trying to decide if I was going to make it fully black with my brush pen, or if I was going to actually use one of my lighter markers and see if I could, you know, put some atmosphere or something in there. Make it feel like perspective. Just imagine SpongeBob doing his imagination thing and you've got it. The problem that I kind of had is the paper is really big, which is fantastic, but because I film from above, I have to keep the sketchbook pretty flat or else I start angling it, and the camera is in my face hole, so yeah, it was really difficult because obviously the picture ends up being at a difficult angle for me to see and line things up at, as you can tell by those very wonky eyeballs on the panda. So yeah, I do eventually turn off my camera and pull the sketchbook onto my lap because I needed to change some angles, and there were still some things I kind of messed up. Like you can see here that I have kind of like, I have his stomach kind of concave as if he's, you know, leaning forward. He's got a bit of a curve to his spine, and that kind of disappears over time and it makes it look a little short, I guess. But yeah, it's okay. And then usually I do a bit more erasing, but I was kind of curious if on this paper it would end up pulling it. And yeah, it didn't really. And a lot of people had mentioned, from what I'd seen, that the paper stays really wet after you put the marker on it and they had problems smudging. I did not have that problem at all. And maybe another thing from using graphite inks and things like that will kind of smudge and rub and all that stuff, watercolor included maybe. I kind of work away from my hand and try not to run back through it, but even still, I feel like while I was inking, which I'm occasionally a fool about, and I do rub my hand through ink stuff, so I try to find things that dry quickly. I didn't have any issues with that, and I was a little worried that because of the wetness, not necessarily with my markers, but because people were saying that it stayed wet for so long, I thought I was going to have issues with ink, which is one reason why I put my marker down first. I thought this is going to probably smudge, so, you know, don't get too attached to it. And no, it really was not that bad. I don't know if maybe people are just a little faster than I am, or maybe their markers were a little bit more wet. But the whole pelt that I have over his shoulders, I end up using my Ohuhu markers because the rest of them are a mix of Blick and Copic. So yeah, and I've noticed that the Ohuhus come way, 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 way more full, which is fantastic. And I really like that. They're super juicy. So I kind of thought, you know, with the one I'm using right now, that would cause some problems maybe. I was very curious about it. And once again, I had no issues. I think there's a few times you can see on the camera that something is drying, like you can see it's a bit wet, but I never passed my hand through it by accident or anything like that. Because I switched to the chisel right here to cover more area and try to get kind of a breakup texture, like a wave, because I want to start like breaking up the different locks of the fur and everything, and the easiest way is to start by, you know, creating clumps that sit over the top of each other. So I break it up like what I'm doing right there, and it just gives me a top and a bottom for those. So yeah, you can see the little wet spots. I didn't have any problems with that, even switching over to this other side. So maybe that's something I'll notice later on when I'm doing something that has a lot of color or whatever, where I'm using a lot of really juicy markers. But yeah, I didn't notice that with this. So for anyone curious, no, I didn't notice that, and it was good. And I really like the paper. And actually, after I finished using it, because I'm generally quite precious with paper, I just keep thinking about using it again. So, yeah, that means I like it. And I think that it's really good. Again, I usually just use cardstock. I've had the best results with cardstock, and it reminded me of using cardstock to blend. So, you know, I felt at home. There was maybe some subtle differences, but nothing so big that I felt really intimidated, aside from the fact that, you know, it was new paper and I didn't want to waste a page. Even still, knowing that I could draw on the back and make something on the back was really nice, and it kind of took the edge off, so that was cool. Oh, another thing. Usually when you get special paper and it's soft or, you know, meant for something like marker, it like kind of seems to me that you can't erase on it. You have to draw really, really lightly, and if you make a mistake, you just can't erase it. It won't come up. But on this one, I had no issues erasing with the normal eraser that I use for my color erase pencils and things. So it's my Sumo Grip eraser. So that was really good. And that was also another thing I was very, very curious about. And I do think I'll be buying more of this paper. I'll probably still use my cardstock because I enjoy it, and I still have some in one of my books. But yeah, definitely really enjoy this paper. This dude reminded me of a bad guy in a comic I read forever ago. I won't name it because it's like vastly inappropriate. But I really enjoyed it back in the day. And then on the little, what would you call them, forearm hair cuffs, I have no idea what it is, but I just went ahead and tried to make some shapes, just shapes of fur. Once again, trying to put some stuff on top of the other thing so it looks like a decent amount of layering. So that when I went over the top of it and inked, I would be able to pull the hair into separate clumps. Hopefully that comes through. And then I kind of overblended these because this was supposed to be the big metal claws, and I think I should have put more mechanical bits on it anyway. I think it would have looked cooler. I think in general I should have made this more mechanical. I think that would have been really rad, and I could have made some really cool shapes. But I did not. In fact, the first day that I recorded this, I didn't get to finish it. I had a lot of things to do that day, and I've been teaching my youngest brother how to make pancakes, so I was keeping an eye on him while he did that. Then the inking finally begins. Whenever I started the hands, that was a different day, because I didn't even get to them that day, and then I knew I needed to get into the inking. This micron is so close to dead, so it was a little rough because I like when they're juicier for getting like really quick lines. You can just swipe it across and it actually, I don't know, it just makes a really nice thick to thin line all on its own, like using velocity in digital programs. So yeah, I like doing that, but it would not do that for me. In fact, I will try it on these jeans in a minute, and I have to go over it. I try to kind of like flick it across twice, and it doesn't really want to make a line, so I had to do it a little bit more slowly and try to go over it and retrace nearly. So, yep, that was on me. It took a lot of pressing and stuff. I should have just used my brush pen because, yeah, my zebra one. I really like that one. You can make the lines pretty thick, but you can get some thin lines too. Although I used it for my Inktober last year, so it's nearly at the end of its life. I keep considering getting another one for this Inktober. I do Inktober every year. I really, really wanted to film these for the upcoming one. I don't really have a plan. I never really had time for a plan, and I still don't. I have stuff going on all the way until the end of September. Not necessarily all work-wise, but yeah, lots of other things. So, yeah, probably will not be planning. And then also we'll be leaving in October, so I won't even be able to film all of October. It just won't happen, so I don't know how that's gonna go. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. Because that would be a whole, I guess a whole, what, 8-9 days, depending on travel, where I won't be able to film. So that's kind of a shame. Because someone wanted me to do that last year whenever I showed my sketchbook. So, yeah. I actually haven't even planned which sketchbook I'm going to be using, so yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of excited for it though. I almost wish I could use it to do something a little bit more productive at the same time, you know? Like do some designs for our little business traditionally, and if I need to clean them up later digitally, that's just how it goes, but we'll see. I've thought multiple times about doing a small mini comic to get back into drawing our guys for our comic, because I'd really like to do that over the winter. But I don't think I will have time for comic pages exactly. I like to kind of feel it out whenever I do fur. Just whatever works. I've done it a lot of times in probably the last 5 years, so whenever I start, sometimes it kind of falls into an autopilot mode and I have to pull myself back out of it if I want to try something new with the texture. I think I did it once when I was drawing my character Venna a few Inktovers ago. Yeah, I think so. Because Glane was putting a big fur coat over the top of his shoulders because they were out playing in the snow. And Venna, in his normal fashion, was not wearing a shirt because he is a wild child. Yet another old story that may or may not ever see the light of day. Pretty much always end up having to use some color pencil just so I'm not going over the top of things over and over and over again with the marker and using up all of my ink. Sometimes I go in with my Tombows over the top. I'm sure people have seen that, and that kind of helps build it because it's obviously water-based, so it'll sit on top a little bit better. And I've even used watercolor a couple times over the top of marker. Another Inktober I did a really long time ago, I did something similar to that. I drew one of my characters, the shark, up against a brick wall, and I ended up using the red watercolor as like blood spatter. I did a little bit with marker, and unfortunately the sun kind of turned that a really hilarious magenta color, but the red of the watercolor is still not too bad. And I think it looked really good, and thereafter I started using watercolor over the top of marker now and again because it just creates its own look. It also makes it weirdly vibrant if you're using a decent amount of paint. So who knows what you could get out of that. I'm sure someone who does a lot of mixed media knows, and they do that quite often on their own stuff. But it's kind of interesting when you're just using what you have around and not thinking about it too much. The kind of stuff that you end up putting together. But as you can see in the background, I did not add the rest of that pelt, so I really need to go in and do that before I take pictures. I haven't even done it right now when I'm doing the voiceover, so I will try to remember to do that. That way it Gives it a little bit more depth and makes more sense because it looks like it just disappears behind his arms. There's a whole nother dimension back there. A weird void. Now I was just kind of trying to clear his eyes out because it had a tiny bit of marker, but mostly a lot of the pencil because I didn't erase it at all, not even with my kneaded eraser, so. And then off camera, I took out that whole right eye because I wanted it to be a little bit more milky and also because it's really off kilter. So, you will see that. And then I kind of like how the fur ended up on the left side. It almost looks like feathers or leaves maybe. And I kind of like that. It worked for me. My brother said that he looked like some sort of boss. Like maybe in the One Piece universe. I mean, he is silly enough almost, huh? Well, I think they have plenty of nice metal-jawed people. Or like Frankie. If you watch One Piece. Or have followed the comics at all. I read decently far into the comics. There is my cleaver. And the finished picture. If I'll ever finish drawing my cleaver. So I have to fuss with it. I was actually having a hard time drawing it with this super dry pen. Anyway, yes, so this is the finished picture. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day or night, and bye.